Hello everyone and welcome to Very Cold Lasagna. I am your host, Dylan Lasagna, and this is episode number 263 of this icy yet spicy podcast for all your filthy casual takes on the world of sports, both in the past, present, and whatever happens in the future for you casual fans out there like you and me. And in this episode, we're continuing along our retro road to WrestleMania, and that means we're going back into the old icebox. For this one, a retro review of WrestleMania 21 on its 20th anniversary that actually happened a little while ago, but I know we're late and out of date on it, but nonetheless, we're here to review retroactively WrestleMania 21, and it recently had its 20th anniversary. So that being said, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started, and before we continue along our retro road to WrestleMania, as it is WrestleMania season, even though it doesn't feel like it in modern times. But before we get started, nonetheless, make sure you follow Very Cold Lasagna on social media at Very Cold Lasagna, both on X and Instagram. And make sure for all my audio listeners out there, continue to listen to this podcast. It'd mean the world to me. And make sure, especially, to rate and review the show. Leave me some feedback. And that goes the same for all my YouTube watchers out there. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. If you're not subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell and leave me your takes on the topic at hand, this being WrestleMania 21, and whether you watched it for the first time recently or back in the past in 2005 or whatever year that you watched it. Let me know your thoughts on this particular WrestleMania, and let's have a conversation about it. And as always, share this with your friends, share this with the neighbor, share this with whoever's around you, whether it's at work, school, wherever you're at. Share the good, the bad, the ugly about this filthy casual podcast entitled Very Cold Lasagna. So, let's continue along our retro Road to WrestleMania mini-series here on Very Cold Lasagna. And we continue that with WrestleMania 21. It took place on April 3rd, 2005 at the Staples Center, which nowadays is known as Crypto.com Arena. It's still a dumb name in my opinion, but here we are. It's home to a variety of teams: the LA Lakers, the LA Kings, the LA Sparks, you name it. All three of those teams. And home to a variety of events. One of those events happened 20 years ago, that being WrestleMania 21 by the WWE. So this took place in Los Angeles, California, and this WrestleMania was the fifth at the time to take place in the LA metropolitan area. The other four that took place was WrestleMania 2, WrestleMania 7, WrestleMania 12, and then the one we most recently reviewed on actually the last episode of the podcast, WrestleMania 2000, aka WrestleMania 16. So we reviewed WrestleMania 2000 in the last episode. Shameless plug, by the way. Make sure after this episode that we're doing right now, go and check out a WrestleMania 2000 retro review. We have a lot to say about that one. So anyway, when it comes to this particular WrestleMania 21, this one was the fastest sellout in both WWE and Staples Center, aka Crypto.com Arena history, with tickets selling out in less than a minute. So yeah, basically, the moment that it's sold back in whenever it did, I'm not sure when exactly that was. I imagine, assuming going back to the Wayback Machine, it was October or November, depending on past history. Yeah, it was around that time, and well, once it sold, it was gone. So this WrestleMania drew a then attendance record for Staples Center of 20,193 people exactly. And all those people spanned from over 37 countries and 50 states. And unfortunately, that record was later broken by a 2009 in January of that year. A 2009 World WBA, that's pretty much a boxing fight, a WBA welterweight title fight between Antonio Margarito and Shane Mosley, which then set the still standing attendance record for Staples Center, aka Crypto.com Arena, of 20,820 people in attendance. So, yeah. So some little factoids about this particular WrestleMania, and to further promote this WrestleMania, since it was in quote unquote Hollywood, with that tagline WrestleMania Goes Hollywood, which would also be used for the future WrestleMania that happened 2 years ago, recently with WrestleMania 39, but only this one was done much better. But I digress. This WrestleMania first used the tagline of WrestleMania Goes Hollywood and did much better promotion with a variety of notable parody movie trailers from a variety of wrestlers, some of which included the following: Braveheart, Triple H playing the role of Mel Gibson's William Wallace in that movie, Forrest Gump, Eugene playing the role of Tom Hanks's Forrest Gump, obviously, Dirty Harry, Undertaker playing Clint Eastwood's role of Harry Callahan, and then you got A Few Good Men, that movie, featuring John Cena and JBL playing Tom Cruise's role of Lieutenant Daniel Caffey, and JBL playing Jack Nicholson's role, Colonel Nathan R. Jessup. So there's a long, extensive list of the movie trailers that WWE parodied to promote this WrestleMania, and most of them were pretty good. I'll give it that, and they did a really good job in promoting this particular WrestleMania to make it really feel like a grand spectacle. It really felt it was in Hollywood, and to further do that, they had a variety of celebrities on hand for this WrestleMania, like Adam Sandler, Rob Schneider, the Black Eyed Peas, who were a thing hot item at the time, Ice Cube, Carmen Electra, and then nowadays the IWC's favorite celebrity from Home Alone, the Home Alone movies, Macaulay Culkin. Sorry if I mispronounced that, but anyway, yeah. You even have the IWC's favorite celebrity nowadays. But more importantly, when it came to this specific WrestleMania, when you look at it from a broader scale, in my opinion, this WrestleMania set the stage that the previous WrestleMania that we did talk about last year, and just in general, this WrestleMania did what the previous WrestleMania 20, couldn't for the WWE. What exactly that was? Well, we're actually going to talk about it much later down the line with this retro review, and some bits and pieces during it as well. So, with all that out of the way, with all the facts and the bits out of the way, let's talk about this particular WrestleMania itself. So let's get into WrestleMania 21 and all the matches at hand. And it all began on the pre-show that was exclusive for DVD. And I somehow managed to find it. Not the DVD itself, unfortunately, but the what happened on the pre-show. So the show, quote unquote, officially kicked off with the 30-man interpromotional battle royale. Some of the participants included the Hurricane, Rhino, Maven, Scotty 2 Hotty, Hardcore Holly, William Regal, Heinrich, Booker T, Viscera, and Chris Masters. Chris Masters, who made his debut in February, he had a notable performance in this pretty much jobber-esque battle royale. He eliminated 5 wrestlers in a rapid fury at one point. Yeah, he was pretty much the standout wrestler in this match, and made it to the final 3 with Viscera and Booker T. So, yeah, that's pretty much the only noteworthy thing other than the finish, which saw Booker T managing to eliminate Viscera and then super kicking Chris Masters over the top rope to win this pre-show battle royale for SmackDown. Yeah, that was pretty much it. I don't really have any other comment to say about this matchup here, because, well, I mean, it's a pre-show. What more needs to be said? So then we begin the actual show with Howard Finkel introducing Lillian Garcia, who sings this really nice rendition of America the Beautiful. And with all the WrestleManias that I've watched, and every time Lillian Garcia stings it, when we saw WrestleMania 2000, and then we go on to WrestleMania 21, I feel, in my personal opinion, I feel like, over the years, she just keeps getting better and better. Every year that she's always doing it, and I guess I guess it really does go with the saying, like, the more time passes, the more you improve. I don't know. Is that a saying? I don't know, but either way, she really hit it on this one. She really hit on this rendition of America the Beautiful. So then we got the opening package of all the trailers that WWE used to promote this WrestleMania compiled together, including one we hadn't seen yet. It was a Gladiator parody. That movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe, and it seemed like when I saw this, it seemed like they got the actual guy that played the villain, Commodious. Was that Joaquin Phoenix that actually played? That was actually in it. Like, someone tell me. Did they actually get Joaquin Phoenix to play his actual role in this intro of Commodious? But if it's not, they look like they got a much similar guy. Like, they really convinced me that they got Joaquin Phoenix. They must have paid a lot of money to do that. And obviously, you had Stone Cold Steve Austin playing Maximus in this parody, and he's saying, "I'm the master of the middle finger," and tonight we're gonna unleash hell. And then we get to the opening pyro, and everyone cheering and screaming as Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler, Michael Cole, Taz welcome us to WrestleMania, going Hollywood, as we began the night's festivities with the WWE Tag Team Champions going up against one another as Rey Mysterio took on Eddie Guerrero. The backstory of this match was, well, these two guys, they were slated to actually try and defend these tag team titles at WrestleMania. But despite winning it at No Way Out, Eddie's nephew, Chavo Guerrero, he encouraged him to challenge his partner Rey to a singles match at this Mania to not only tear the house down, quote unquote, but to also prove he could still have a go as a singles wrestler. Now, keep in mind, at this point in time last year being in 2005, and from last year, 2004, when we talk about these things, Eddie Guerrero, from the last WrestleMania to this one, he was the WWE champion, coming out of WrestleMania 20, and then from that WrestleMania to this WrestleMania we're talking about here, the year was kind of shaky for him. So he wanted to prove that he could still have a go as a singles competitor. So Rey accepted the challenge, and maybe at the time they didn't really have a lot of strong tag team competition that they can really put on for that WrestleMania at the time. So why the heck not? So when it comes to this match, I think I've only seen this through small snippets on social media and on YouTube. So I finally got to see this match in its entirety. And this was a great match and a great opener to start off this WrestleMania. Both of them exchanged some really good offense in it until Eddie took control of a large part of the match and really focused on Rey's back. And the back really was a focus for a lot of these matches. It's like they were inspired by a future movie by the name of Spider-Man 3. No, it's not Spider-Man 3. It's a past movie. The other movie, Spider-Man 2. They really liked that meme, that future meme that was going to come up real soon. But anyway, bad jokes aside, Eddie Guerrero honed in on Rey's back, utilizing a variety of submission moves, the three Amigos, a couple of backbreakers, but Rey kept on fighting. Rey would keep kicking out, and then throughout the match, every time that Rey would never give up, the frustration just continued to grow from Eddie. It wasn't very subtle either. And then you saw Ray managing to rally back after dodging Eddie Guerrero's frog splash. And he countered a powerbomb into a hurricanrana to set up his 619. He hit it, but Eddie countered the West Coast pop with a hard powerbomb that looked pretty nasty for a very close near fall that shook both Eddie and the crowd. And you had Eddie wondering, like, what do I got to do to beat this man? Because keep in mind, Eddie Guerrero had never beaten Ray in the WWE at that point in time. So Eddie was looking to win the match with one more backbreaker, but Ray countered it with the West Coast pop for the win to shock Eddie. And yeah, that's how Ray won this really great match. So they shake hands afterwards, but little did we know at the time, it was only the beginning of what would end up becoming one of the best feuds of 2005, as Eddie just simply couldn't live with the fact that he had yet to beat Ray, and he couldn't beat Ray on the biggest stage of wrestling. And it would also this feud would also introduce us to a future little dirty and daddy Dom. I just had to throw that in there, huh? Unfortunately, sadly, this Mania would also be the last for Eddie Guerrero, as he would pass away at the end of 2005. Rest in peace, Latino Heat. But yeah, Ray walks away with the victory in a really nice opener to this WrestleMania. And now we move on to the next match. And that was the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match. And the participants were Edge, aka Cope nowadays, Chris Jericho, Christian, Shelton Benjamin, Chris Benoit, and Kane. It's out there on the web. It's out there in documentaries of the story of this match, of how this came together behind the scenes. It's an interesting tale. But yeah, for those of you that want to hear it from me and my filthy casual perspective, and from what I saw. Oh yeah, let me tell you about it. Let me tell you about it from my filthy casual perspective. So, from what I've read, from what I saw, on the not there though. So when I saw this, it seemed like none of the participants had any real firm plans going into this WrestleMania, which kind of sucked because, you look at the star power in this match. Like, Edge was on the up and up as a heel. Chris Jericho was Chris Jericho, always as dynamic as he was. Christian was also a very good heel at the time. Shelton Benjamin was a really good mid-carder, and was also the Intercontinental Champion. Benoit also coming off I'd say a very solid year, despite having a World Heavyweight title run. And then Kane, always a reliable vet. But none of them had really firm plans for this WrestleMania. So, behind the scenes, Jericho and head writer at the time, Brian Gewirtz, who is well known for being the Rock's and Dwayne's right-hand man nowadays, with the Bloodline story 20 years later. So, they were throwing the ideas around on what they could do for this WrestleMania. The Money in the Bank match that we got with this WrestleMania, it was originally supposed to be a three-way submission match between Jericho, Edge, and Benoit. But Jericho absolutely hated that because, well, Edge was the only one in that match that didn't have a submission finisher at the time. He obviously had one later, but at the time, it didn't make much sense. And I totally understood Jericho's POV. Like, yeah, what the fuck? So then Jericho, on a little drive, he came up with a ladder match. So he told Brian Gewirtz this idea, a ladder match which guaranteed a title shot the next night on Raw, to which Gewirtz expanded that idea to what we have now. A ladder match with a title shot that can be cashed in at any point, whenever you want, within the next year. So Gewirtz pitched this idea to Vince, who liked the idea. He actually loved the idea, as long as it had the addition of a briefcase, which we also have now. And Jericho and Gewirtz were just like, okay, screw it. Let's put it in the briefcase, pal. And hence, the Money in the Bank ladder match was born. So some other behind the scenes notes included, well, pretty much some of the field being a little bit hesitant on being in this match. Like Kane was hesitant on doing the match because, well, he didn't really have a lot of experience being in ladder matches, and he wasn't really sure what to do. But he was built up being this dominant force going into the match. But Edge was especially hesitant. He is completely against actually doing this ladder match because, well, look at Edge prior to this WrestleMania. He's done a number of ladder matches in his career, especially during the Attitude Era, and he missed 2 WrestleManias due to a serious and career-threatening neck injury at the time. He had double fusion neck surgery just to get back to where he was at this point. So, yeah, you have to wonder, like, was it really worth? Like, looking from this perspective, was it really worth it for Edge to even get into this kind of match with this kind of condition? His first WrestleMania since WrestleMania 18. But Edge was eventually sold on the idea when he learned of the concept of the Money in the Bank briefcase, especially with the fact that it can be cashed in on anytime, anywhere within the next year. And he also was convinced that, well, he would be the first ever winner of it. I mean, it would have been nice. It would have been interesting to see if had Jericho won it, since he came up with the idea. So when it came to explaining it on TV, it was kind of identical to how it was behind the scenes. Like, Jericho went up to Raw General Manager Eric Bischoff with the idea of Money in the Bank and invited the other participants of the idea. Edge rejecting the idea at first and then accepting it after. Eric Bischoff mentioned the anytime, anywhere incentive of the contract. So, yeah, that pretty much set up this Money in the Bank ladder match. So, when it comes to this match itself, I mean, it was pretty much how it went down. I mean, if Kane's entrance in this match of setting the ladders on fire, if it wasn't symbolic enough of how it was going to go down, then I really don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what would have. Because, yeah, this was an absolute demolition derby from the very start. Yet, it was a demolition derby at its very finest. And it served as a great intro to what would become a staple for the WWE for the next 2 decades. Like, all 6 guys, they shone bright in this match, and everyone found unique ways to use a ladder in this one. Like, I could go on and on about every single spot in this match, but I mean, we'd be here all day. But like, some of the notable spots that I found in this match, like, included Benoit giving a German suplex to Jericho while Jericho was still holding a ladder. Kane getting sandwiched by Edge and Christian, giving him a ladder-style concerto. And then you had Shelton Benjamin. Like, Shelton Benjamin was probably the MVP of this match. Like, with all the really dangerous spots that he had in this match. Like, giving a T-bone suplex to Edge off the top of a ladder. And then 1 minute later, like, suddenly miraculously getting his ass up and then running up a bridged ladder, like a diagonally bridged ladder, running up that to clothesline Jericho off the top of another ladder. Like, did the man take something? I'm like, how did he get up 1 minute after giving and taking a T-bone suplex to Edge off the top of one ladder and then running up to give Jericho a top ladder clothesline off of another? Like, Shelton Benjamin was absolutely insane. I mean, they're all insane, but Shelton Benjamin was especially insane in this match. And then you had Christian's problem solver, Tyson Tomko, who also competed in the interpromotional battle royale earlier in the night. He tried to help Christian climb the ladder and get the briefcase, only to be stopped by Kane, who pushed Christian off the ladder and then onto Tomko outside of the ring seconds later. And then you had Benoit, again, putting his life on the line and his head with a flying headbutt onto Kane from the top of a ladder, even though he was clearly hurting already enough. Like, his shoulder was hurt, and now he wants to give himself even more head injuries. So the finish of the match saw Benoit and Kane managing to have somehow enough willpower from that last spot to climb a ladder and fight over the briefcase, with Benoit somehow outmatching Kane. And it seemed like a very, very beat up Benoit was going to win this match. That was until Edge came out of nowhere with a chair and hit Benoit's hurt ass shoulder to knock him off the ladder. And that allowed Edge to climb up and steal the briefcase for himself to become the first ever Mr. Money in the Bank. I mean, damn. I mean, what more needs to be said about this ladder match? Because this was absolutely fantastic. Like, everyone shined in this match, especially Shelton Benjamin. But yeah, you could have made very strong arguments for each person to win this match. Like, I talked about it at the beginning, talking about this match. Like, Jericho, multiple accomplishments, multi-time WWE champion. Yeah, and he also invented the idea of the match. Kane, very strong monster babyface, heel, however you want to put him in any position to win the match. And then you had Christian, who didn't have a chance to win a world title yet. You could have put him in a strong spot, and he was doing some really nice heel work along with Edge, who was on the up and up as a heel, and he only had one world title match up to that point, being the month prior. And then you also had Benoit. Who was fresh off of a world title run. And then Benjamin was also coming off he was still the Intercontinental Champion, but he was doing some pretty strong matches at that point. So, even retroactively looking back at it, Edge winning here was the right call to further his heel traits of what he ended up being, the ultimate opportunist. So, yeah, two really great matches to kick off WrestleMania. And when it comes to this match, Edge would hold on to the briefcase for several months until he had that famous first cash in on John Cena at the 2006 New Year's Revolution pay-per-view to win his first of many world titles. And then, yeah, that led to the, that Pound Town Live celebration, pal, the next night on Raw. I mean, yeah, what better way to celebrate than that, huh? But anyway, to wrap up this match, an idea that started out as a three-way submission match originally. It would go on to be a top three, if not the best Money in the Bank ladder match of all time, because the risks, the star power, you had a really strong case for either person to win this match, the actual winner in Edge, and the historical importance of the match concept going forward 20 years later, and they're still doing Money in the Bank. To have this introduced at WrestleMania, and it should be brought back to WrestleMania, by the way, to assure a couple of spots for people. But yeah, I do think that, this Money in the Bank was very important for the WWE and establishing. It was a good establishing point for something. Yeah, I'm not sure. I had a thought in my head, but not sure where I was going with it. But it was an important match concept, I would say, to wrap it up going forward. So then after the Money in the Bank ladder match, Eugene came out. Everyone's favorite person at the time, Eugene. Eugene was recovering from an injury, but he managed to come out to talk about his favorite WrestleMania moment before the so controversial Muhammad Hassan and Daivari came out. If you didn't know about Muhammad Hassan at the time, oh boy, you want to go look him up, because I didn't know about Muhammad Hassan until I started watching about a year later, several years. I started watching wrestling about a year later after this, but years later, until I randomly pulled up YouTube, and then I saw Muhammad Hassan in my recommendations. Boy, man, this guy had a crazy ass gimmick, but he pulled it off very well. Muhammad Hassan, this gimmick was a crazy ass idea by Vince. For storyline context, Hassan was angry at being excluded from WrestleMania, including the Money in the Bank ladder match, and he blamed it on the racist nature of both management and the fans. So he decided, for this WrestleMania, he was gonna stage a protest against all the racists, the racist management, the racist fans, and the racist idea of WrestleMania. So yeah, Hassan and Daivari did their usual spiel, and Daivari, speaking a lot of gibberish in whatever language it was, but yeah, they decided to create their own WrestleMania moment if it wasn't going to be given to them. And that WrestleMania moment was attacking Eugene, as the crowd was chanting USA, USA. As they were continuing to attack Eugene, Hassan locked him in the camel clutch as a familiar theme played. Hulk Hogan came out to save Eugene for America. At Staples Center, went wild, brother. And Hassan and Daivari rushed him, attacked him once he got in the ring, until Hogan got the upper hand and sent them both packing before doing his usual posing, brother. So this was some nice stuff here that gave Hassan both his storyline comeuppance and a WrestleMania moment that he'll certainly remember. And sadly, his only WrestleMania moment, while also prepping the fans of the run that Hogan was going to eventually have post WrestleMania that year. So it was a nice moment, I guess, as we move on to the next match we're going to talk about. And that was going to involve The Undertaker taking on Randy Orton in a match that was billed as Legend versus Legend Killer. This is the first of two SmackDown versus Raw matches at this WrestleMania. And the story first started when Randy Orton was encouraged by superstar Billy Graham to, quote unquote, go where no wrestler has gone before. And using that as inspiration, Orton decided to challenge The Undertaker to a match at this WrestleMania with a promise of ending his 12-0 streak. And there was an interesting point that I heard recently that, at the time, The Undertaker was 12-0 at WrestleMania, and it was only mentioned on commentary that prior to this match that Undertaker was undefeated at WrestleMania, but no one really brought it up as oh, I'm gonna really end your streak. But Randy Orton here, he really made it an explicit point that I really want to end your streak. I really want to push you to your limit and put you to your breaking point where I can end your streak at WrestleMania. And honestly, that's exactly what Randy Orton did throughout the rest of this build. He would go to varying lengths to prove, even for as young as he was at the time, he would go on to do various things to prove that he could beat The Undertaker. And that included RKOing Jake the Snake Roberts, who was the second victim of the streak, on the highlight reel, slapping The Undertaker during their contract signing, and probably the biggest thing of all, RKOing his on-screen girlfriend, Stacy Keibler. So, he wanted to drive home the point that he'll do anything, and I mean anything, to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania and end that streak. And when you have the last episode of SmackDown before WrestleMania, he further drove that point home by having his dad, Cowboy Bob Orton, set up The Undertaker in a trap to have Randy Orton attack and RKO Undertaker to show what could possibly happen at WrestleMania. Yeah, you knew Randy Orton was going to do any and all things to try and end that streak. So let's get into this match. I thought it was a good match. One in which Randy Orton really held his own against a veteran like The Undertaker. And yeah, this match really showed that this was probably Undertaker's biggest test to the streak since, I'd say, Kane at WrestleMania 14. Because, yeah, when you look at this match, both of them had some really nice counters against each other, which played into the cat and mouse game, who would outsmart the other. But when you get to the turning point in this match, it saw Earl Hebner take a ref bump, getting shoved into Orton by Undertaker after he countered an RKO. And that led, and this happened at, I'd say, around more than the halfway point. We were getting 3/4 into the match. But Cowboy Bob Orton came out to hit Undertaker with his signature cast, which, for those filthy casuals out there, I didn't know this at the time either. The signature cast was a staple of Bob Orton's career. And when the referee was revived, Hebner being, Undertaker kicked out at a very, very close 2. So, yeah, the interference wasn't enough. Undertaker managed to take out Bob Orton, and he looked to take out Randy Orton as well and finish him off. And he was going to choke slam Randy Orton. And he had him up in the air, only for the most memorable spot of the match to happen. Probably one of the best spots of WrestleMania history to happen. You had an epic midair RKO. Randy Orton countered the chokeslam and turned it into a glorious, probably an epic ass RKO. Probably like I'd say top 5 RKO. Like 10 years prior to the Seth Rollins curb stop RKO, you had this RKO happen right here. And man, just when you thought the streak was going to end on that, somehow it didn't. Somehow it didn't on that epic counter, because Undertaker found the will. Undertaker found the heart in his dark character to kick out again from Randy Orton. And I'm just like, wow. Like, wow. It's like Randy Orton was going to do, like I said, he was going to do anything, and I mean anything, to try and end that streak. But Undertaker wasn't going to back down. He was not going to back down from Randy Orton. And unfortunately, Randy Orton just got a tad bit overzealous and tried to, his desperation would cost him dearly. He tried to go for a tombstone pile driver against The Undertaker, but Undertaker countered it into one of his own, and nailed that thing to make Orton his latest victim at WrestleMania, as The Undertaker at the time went 13-0, as again Randy Orton became that 13th victim. So this was some really good stuff from both guys that gave Orton some credibility back. Yeah, again, this was important for Randy Orton to get some credibility, even in defeat, because yeah, at the time Randy Orton was not doing that good. He was coming off a failed face turn during the summer after SummerSlam, and yeah, he talked about, not being ready for a world heavyweight title run and his face turn failing. He was immature at the time, and this was exactly what he needed. Like a heel run, a marquee match against The Undertaker, and he absolutely nailed this performance. Like even though he lost, he proved he could truly hang with the best, while Undertaker once again showed he had plenty left to go in his career. And yeah, this was like Undertaker was wrestling for like how long now? I'd say pretty long time at that point, but he still could go. He could go. So, but speaking of plenty left to go, this would be the first chapter of what was to come from this rivalry, because things would be far from over from there between the legend and the legend killer. But for now, this match was pretty good, and it would only get even better from there. So moving on, we had the WWE Women's Champion Trish Stratus take on Christy Hemme. Christy Hemme, it was the 2004 and first ever Diva Search winner at the time, and she earned a Playboy cover gig and $250,000. Yeah, that's pretty much how she got into this position. I mean, not to say that as a dig, but I mean, that's just what how this match was set up. And that drew the ire of the women's champion, Trish Stratus. So Christy Hemme was attacked physically and verbally for it. So Christy decided to challenge her to a title match at WrestleMania, to which Trish accepted overconfidently. So given that Christy wasn't that developed as a wrestler, Lita was there to help her train for this match and give her some credibility in the lead up. So yeah, all eyes, if there were some at the time, were on whether or not Christy Hemme was gonna, do at least decent in this match at WrestleMania. I mean, when it comes to this match, there's not much to say. I mean, it went by pretty quick, given that Christy just wasn't ready to be in such a prime spot. I mean, to have her, I think it was like her first match or two, not at WrestleMania, just wrestling in general. But to have one of her first few matches be in such a major spot at WrestleMania with very little wrestling experience, that's not such a good idea in my opinion. But at the same time, she tried very hard. She didn't completely embarrass herself, which is at least good. She actually tried to keep up with Trish in this match. She had a few standout moments that utilized her flexibility and the positives of her as a wrestler. But Trish during this time was just on another stratosphere. Yeah, bad pun and all. And just completely toyed with Christy all match long. Like Trish during 2004 and 2005 as a heel, pretty good stuff. But there was a point where Christy nearly did win the match with the twist of fate, but Trish kicked out at the very close to, and Trish decided to finally have enough of it. She decided to hit Christy with the chick kick to retain her title, and yeah, pretty much all Lita could do was look on. So yeah, heel Trish continued to thrive for the rest of the year, while Christy, she didn't last that much longer in WWE after this. So not much else to say about this match, and yeah, we can move on from it. So the next match we could talk about, though, is one that was considered the biggest dream match of the time and the second interpromotional match of the night, and that was Kurt Angle, the Olympic gold medalist, taking on the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. So the story of this match kicked off back at the Royal Rumble when HBK eliminated Angle from said Royal Rumble match, and when Angle revived himself, he recovered. He decided to go back into the ring to attack and take out Shawn Michaels from the Royal Rumble match. From there, that was when the rivalry kicked off. And actually, the rivalry officially kicked off when Angle invaded Raw to cost Shawn Michaels a street fight against Edge. And that's when the rivalry really kicked off, which included a couple of highly intense brawls, the return of Michaels' former tag team partner, Marty Jannetty, as well as the very funny Sexy Kurt duet with Angle and HBK's former manager, Sensational Sherry. So, yeah, we had a very interesting build-up, but at the same time, it also noted the intensity and the willingness for both men to want to win this highly touted dream match that wrestling fans had been wanting to see for a very long time at the time. So, this match, I mean, I've only seen, like with the opening match with Eddie and Ray, I've only seen this match in bits and pieces throughout my time as a wrestling fan. So I actually got to finally see this match in full, and I gotta say, I can see why. I can see why it's on people's list of greatest matches of all time, whether it's on WrestleMania. Greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, or just greatest matches of all time in general, because this was like a lot. There was a lot of good stuff. There was a lot of good stuff in this match, like a lot of great counters from both of them, And then you have Angle eventually outpowering Shawn after Michaels was out wrestling Kurt early in the match. And then, Angle was just basically picking apart Shawn Michaels for more than half of this match. Like, when you look back at Angle hitting an angle slam on Shawn Michaels onto the ring post, that was basically Angle beginning the toy with HBK for, a large part of this match. So, there was also a couple of standout moments from this match as well. Like, Angle trying to suplex HBK from the apron to the, I think it was the German announce table, but then you had HBK dick kicking Angle without the referee noticing, which interestingly garnered some boos from the crowd. Like, there was a split crowd reaction during this match. And then you had HBK hitting a springboard crossbody onto Angle on that announce table, but the table didn't break because JR and Jerry the King Lawler, they mentioned that the tables were reinforced for this match. And then there's like I said, the counters in this match. Like, Angle was really on top of Shawn Michaels with the counters. Like, when HBK was starting to rally, Angle countered Sweet Chin Music with the first of many ankle locks. And then whenever HBK tried to roll out of the ankle lock, every time, Angle was always like holding on to that thing. He was got that thing cinched up. So, Angle was pretty much on top of everything. But when we got to the ending, when Angle tried to go for a moonsault, he missed the mark. He did hit an avalanche angle slam at one point as well. But there was another close near fall. Then there was a lot of very good near falls that kept the audience into it. And then all of a sudden, HBK finally nailed a Sweet Chin Music after that when Angle was talking too much trash and caught him looking. But we finally saw the finish. We finally saw the finish of this match. Angle played possum as HBK started to get up and cinched in the ankle lock one more time, and he locked it in real good, no matter how much HBK tried to fight out of it. Like, he had that thing in for a full minute, standing up, and then HBK, all he could do, he kept trying to fight out of it. But then once Angle got down on the ground to further lock that thing in, it was pretty much over for there. It was pretty much over from there for HBK. All he could do was try to go for a rope break, but in the end, he was nearly there. And he was on the verge of tapping, but despite some last bit of fight, he was eventually forced to tap. To Angle in a very epic match. So, like I said, a lot of great counters from both of them. Angle overpowering Shawn Michaels with the bad back, picking apart his ankle. The desperation of HBK in this match to not just survive, but to win by any means. But it was mainly the survival because Angle was giving him punishment in this match. Like, absolute punishment in this match. Like, this match, like, it had all the drama. Like, it had like a lot of like near falls. It had a lot of counters. Like, it pretty much had almost anything, like even what a casual fan could ask for. It had like this. It had the story lead up as well. So it pretty much had everything you can ask for. Where neither guy wanted to quit, but in the end, HBK, he had to, because of all the excruciating pain Angle was giving to him. It was starting to become too much to overcome. So at this point in the show, this was easily by far the best match of this WrestleMania. And they would go on to have a trilogy, to complete a trilogy later in the year. I mean, they couldn't top this one, like, easily. They could not. They would have one more match at Vengeance and then one more match on that Raw Homecoming in October. But this one could not be topped at all. So then moving on from that match, we had another segment And that was one involving Piper's Pit with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah, I was kind of expecting that segment. I don't remember that segment happening at all. But what I also wasn't expecting was for Roddy Piper and Stone Cold to slap each other in the face to start things off. Like, they just like hard slapped each other. And that was just like, that caught me completely off guard. I was like, damn, okay. We're just going to start things off like that, huh? All right, then. So once we actually got to the nitty gritty of things, they just went into a bunch of banter of talking about who was the better rebel back in the day. Old guy talk. But Piper was talking so fast, even at normal speed, that you couldn't really understand what he was saying. But what you could understand was that he was kind of getting annoyed with that "what" chant. And honestly, you can't really blame him. So after you had Austin roast Piper's outfit, you had Carlito Cool come out to tell them to get out of his ring, because everyone wanted to see Carlito, and that was cool. Before Carlito could spit out the apple onto Piper stopped him from even trying, because he grabbed the apple while Carlito kept tossing it around. Piper ate the apple and spat it in his face of a person who didn't want to be cool. So that led to Carlito attacking Piper before Stone Cold intervened, and the two legends teamed up on Carlito to send him packing, as Roddy Piper poked him in the eye, and then Stone Cold gave him a stunner. And this nice little segment ended with Piper getting a Stone Cold stunner, before that drinking some beers with Steve Austin. So just like with the Hogan segment, this was a nice little segment to celebrate some legends. Other than that, not much else to say. But I will say, we ended up getting one of the greatest WrestleMania matches as well after this one, because it involved, well, it's the Big Show taking on Akibono in a very special, one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, the sumo match. No, I kid you not. This is one of the greatest matches of all time, pal. And why was this the greatest match of all time at WrestleMania involving the Big Show? Well, we got to rewind back to how this match even came about at Mania. Because after No Way Out, Big Show set his sights on challenging Sumo Grand Champion Akibono to a sumo match at this particular WrestleMania. And to prove that he was capable of moving the much heavier Akibono, Big Show pushed over the Jeep of jobber Luther Reigns on an episode of SmackDown to further prove his point. So, he went on to challenge Akibono, and on the SmackDown before WrestleMania, Akibono accepted Big Show's challenge. So, for those of you that didn't know about Akibono, don't worry, I barely knew the guy as well. So, he was considered a sporting legend in Japan, and Vince McMahon, he wanted to attract a pay-per-view audience in that market at the time. So, he decided to add this match and have Big Show wrestle Akibono. So, the rules of this match were pretty simple. The winner was determined via pushing the person out of the ring or knocking them off their feet. What do you mean by the ring? I don't mean, well, it technically meant the wrestling ring, but it was the circle in the ring. So it was kind of like an actual sumo match. So we have one of the greatest wrestling matches in the history of WrestleMania in a sumo match. You had both Big Show and Akibono in traditional sumo garb. Most fans would probably not like to have had the visual of Big Show in actual sumo garb in their memory banks. But I mean, But anyway, let's talk about this match itself. I mean, both of them would undergo the tradition of sumo poses and salt tossing in the ring. But there was a lot of stalling in this match before it actually started. And the crowd was growing impatient. But come on, man. You gotta respect the tradition. I know people were confused in LA, but they're just undergoing the tradition. But the match itself was actually very quick. It was full of hand fighting, Big Show going whirl, signaling for that choke slam, and then there was even more hand fighting before Big Show tried to lift Akibono out of the ring, but Akibono got the best of the Big Show by overpowering him and lifting him out of the ring to win this very epic sumo match. All right. This is a match that happened, all jokes aside. And yeah, I mean, it was short, but, all jokes aside, it's crazy though, that of all the things that Vince had Big Show do while in WWE, this is probably one of the wildest ones and one of the craziest ones to do. A sumo match against Akibono, a Japan sporting legend. But I mean, Big Show, I guess, took it in stride, so I can't really complain about that. I mean, you're on Wrestling Super Bowl. I mean, even if it's a sumo match, so I mean, if you're Big Show, should you really complain about that? Could you? So, after Big Show and Akibono showed some mutual respect and left the ring together, then we move on to the first of two very important main event title matches. And the first one involved the WWE champion JBL putting his title on the line against one John Cena. How did we get to this point involving the WWE champion JBL and John Cena? Well, for Cena, he was the Royal Rumble runner-up that year, falling short to Batista. But John Cena had a chance to redeem himself and successfully did so by winning a tournament to become JBL's number one contender at WrestleMania. So when it comes to the lead up for this match, there wasn't really too much to take away from this, but they made something out of nothing. JBL, he cost Cena his United States title against cabinet member Orlando Jordan. And the next week, JBL and his cabinet destroyed Cena's custom spinner belt of the U.S. title and replaced it with the traditional one. So that angered and pissed off Cena, and Cena wanted to fight JBL and the cabinet, obviously wielding a lead pipe. That led to general manager Teddy Long to inform him that, well, you got to wait till WrestleMania, playa, for JBL. And that caused Cena to deem Teddy Long part of the problem and give him the FU. So as a result of that, Teddy Long stipulated that Cena cannot touch JBL unless it was in matches or physically provoked, or the title match at WrestleMania would be off. So the rest of this build foresaw a clash of middle class or lower class or whatever class that Cena represented versus rich class, which represented JBL. Those kind of promos. And JBL trying to provoke Cena to hit him, only for Cena to use the Uno reverse card on JBL during their debate like 2 weeks before WrestleMania by vandalizing JBL's limo on his clothes and that limo, and pouring water in his hat and then onto him. Yeah, that happened during this debate. But that would give JBL grounds to have Cena arrested on the SmackDown before WrestleMania. And then before Cena left, JBL gave Cena one last low blow as your final visual before that title match. So this match, I gotta say, it ended up being a pretty disappointing one, given how both of them did, I'd say, pretty solid to build it up, despite not really having a whole lot of history with each other. I mean, it was the first time they ever faced each other, but they did pretty solid given the build up. But the match itself was pretty disappointing, if you ask me. There weren't many highlight spots other than the finish. I know a lot of people complained about JBL's wrestling ability, but he had a pretty good character. I guess, people were pretty tired of JBL during his long ass championship reign. He was like the longest reigning champion in SmackDown history at the time. And he didn't really do he wasn't really putting on nice performances. That a lot of critics were saying. I mean, he wasn't the worst wrestler in the world, but it's just like nothing spectacular, and that was pretty much evident here. I mean, JBL, he dominated most of this match until the double clothesline spot, and that's where Cena began his comeback to the finish line. But even before then, yeah, there wasn't really much to sink your teeth into because JBL was just beating up all over John Cena before the hashtag beat up John Cena became a thing. But despite all that, though, obviously the most important aspect of this title match was the finish. Cena rallied back, gave JBL the 5-knuckle shuffle, and then dodged the clothesline from hell to turn that into the FU to give Cena his first of what ended up being 16 world titles. So that was the most important takeaway of this. Honestly, it was a match that flew by pretty quick, despite JBL dominating this one, and Cena rallying from behind. As the ending shot saw Cena celebrating with the crowd, as his time was indeed now, and the time was indeed now for the first part of a new era in WWE, with the second part to soon follow. But when it comes to this match, though, Cena and JBL, they had a much better one to follow the next month at Judgment Day. I'm not talking about the group. The Judgment Day pay-per-view a month later to end that feud. And it was during that time where Cena introduced the well-known spinner belt of the WWE title that we used for almost a decade. But yeah, to close my thoughts on this title match, this first one gets honestly a pass given that Cena wound up having much better world title matches at WrestleMania and just much better matches in general at WrestleMania later on. So yeah, this first one, it really kind of gets a pass because this was just mainly used to establish Cena as one of the top faces, one of the franchise guys in WWE. And like I said, this was mainly to get Cena as one of the faces of what was going to be a new era in WWE, and with the second part immediately to follow. But before we get to that part to follow, we had a Hall of Fame showcase for that class of that year. So the standout names for this class included Roddy Piper, who we saw earlier, Cowboy Bob Orton, who we saw earlier, Jimmy Hart, who we didn't see yet, the Iron Sheik, and then, of course, the headliner of that year, Hulk Hogan. And when I saw that, Hulk Hogan as part of that class, I was thinking, like, wow, really? They didn't have him inducted sooner? Like, wow. Or, oh, yeah, wait, I remember now. Like, they didn't bring back the Hall of Fame until the year prior. Now it makes sense. Like now it makes much more sense. Like, they didn't bring back the Hall of Fame until the year prior. Like, so yeah, that makes okay. Now it makes sense. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. So now, after we get a showcase for the Hall of Fame class of 2005, we move on to the second part of what was going to be an important phase for WWE, introducing that news phase for the WWE. And that was the main event. The World Heavyweight Champion, Triple H, putting his title on the line against Batista. This is probably the other important aspect of this WrestleMania, and probably I'd say the biggest story going into it, and probably the most, and I say the most important because it was the most layered and probably the most well-told story going into it. So, I mean, there's a lot to dissect with this story, and we're probably gonna, if I talk about almost every single aspect of it, we'd be here all day. So I'll try to layer it. I'll try to like spark note it as much as possible in this one, but I highly recommend watching a story of this story between Triple H and Batista going into this WrestleMania, because it was so well told in the lead up to it. But to break it down for you, Triple H formed Evolution in February 2003, so 2 years prior to this. presenting the past, which represented Ric Flair, presenting the present, which represented himself, and representing the future, which represented both Randy Orton and Batista at the time. So he formed this group called Evolution, and they dominated Raw for the majority of 2003 and I'd say most of 2004, until cracks began to form after SummerSlam when Randy Orton won the World Heavyweight title. And obviously those cracks were because of Triple H's ego and him wanting to be the center of attention around that World Heavyweight title. So, yeah, towards the end of the year of 2004, that slow tension between Triple H and Batista began after Survivor Series, when Batista took the losing fall for Triple H's team against Randy Orton's team, where the winning team would get each member of that winning team would get 1 week of being the general manager when Eric Bischoff was on vacation. And yeah, since that point, Triple H began ridiculing Batista, but still, Batista would still help Triple H win back the World Heavyweight title, which was vacated while Eric Bischoff was away, inside the Elimination Chamber at the 2005 New Year's Revolution pay-per-view. But that wasn't the big talking point of that pay-per-view. It was at one point, and this is where the masterful storytelling of this soon-to-be rivalry really picked up from there, because Randy Orton, who become, I'd say, a supporting player, yet a key supporting player of kickstarting that rivalry, he presented a key piece of evidence on the night after New Year's Revolution. He showed video footage of Triple H leaving Batista hanging to get eliminated by Randy Orton, and Triple H came up with a million excuses right after to Batista as to why he had to leave Batista hanging right in his face. So yeah, that was some pretty nice layered storytelling. And then in the weeks leading up to the Royal Rumble, Triple H became increasingly concerned on Batista entering the Royal Rumble and possibly going after his World Heavyweight title. So yeah, Batista won the Royal Rumble match as we know it, and Triple H kept and retained his World Heavyweight title against Randy Orton in a rematch. So the month after the Royal Rumble followed Batista's decision as to whether to go after Triple H or go after WWE Champion JBL and the winner of the WWE title tournament, which ended up being John Cena, in a triple threat in probably some of the best story beats WWE produced at that time, if not ever. So yeah, that included Triple H concocting this plan to stage Batista getting run over by a limo that resembled JBL's, and Triple H saving Batista from getting run over, and I mean saving in quote unquote. And then Batista would confront JBL, thinking that JBL set him up getting run over. But even after attacking JBL at No Way Out, even Batista wasn't that stupid to not figure out the plot Triple H was scheming. So yeah, he wasn't that dumb. So then we get to the ultimate night where things really came to a head. Yeah, that famous night of the contract signing, where Batista had to make his big decision on which champion he was going to go after. Yeah, to pretty much sum it up, yeah, the thumbs up, thumbs down segment. I'm not gonna describe anything more than that, because it's already well known out there. So just pretty much put it, Batista chose Triple H. Yeah, he pretty much chose Triple H. And yeah, going into this match, even before he made his official face turn, fans were already behind Batista months prior to this. And looking at how Batista progressed within the last year, he greatly improved. And now it was just only a matter of time before his defining moment. And yeah, that led us to this match. Former Evolution members going at it, and probably, the implosion of Evolution. So going into this match itself, I mean, yeah, every time I see this match, I mean, it's just I mean, it's not like one of the best WrestleMania matches ever, nor was it the best Batista versus Triple H match, but it was just, I just realized just how important it was. Just as much, I'd say just as much as the previous title match was with JBL and John Cena. But I'd say this one, I'd say it was a little better than the WWE title match. But going into the match itself, man, every time I see like Motorhead perform this entrance live in front of the LA crowd, I love it even more. I love it even more when they perform this entrance. I know they did at WrestleMania 17, but I like this one even more. But the LA crowd, even if they were tired as all hell by that point, they re-energized. They got re-energized again when Batista made his entrance, for simplistic as it was. So they got back into it for this match. They were waiting to see Batista's defining moment. And even if this match had its slow moments, and Triple H dominating half of this match, focusing on Batista's back, and Ric Flair attacking Batista whenever the ref had his back turned. Batista managed to fight his way back into it, clotheslining Triple H midair and outpowering him to send him flying out of the ring. And yeah, it was pretty much all Batista from that point onward because, once he reversed the pedigree onto the steel steps and then catapulting Triple H into the ring post to make him bleed, it was pretty much over for Triple H, no matter how much, what he tried to do to come back. But then you also had the Triple H Reign of Terror shenanigans unfold late at the second half of this point of the match, when Triple H knocked out the referee trying to take a chair away from him. And then, those shenanigans involved Ric Flair trying to get involved, but Batista spine bustered Ric Flair to take him out of the equation. And then Triple H managed to hit Batista with the world title without the referee seeing, but it was only for a near fall. And then Triple H hitting Batista with a low blow, reversing a Batista bomb. So, we get towards the end of the match, and Triple H is selling like a like a mofo, selling that he's clearly doozy and losing a lot of blood. I mean, he bladed like a mofo in this match. But regardless, he looked to finish off Batista with the pedigree, but he couldn't get into that jumping position to hit the pedigree, and he did. It just happened twice. And Batista managed to break out of it with this back body drop or power slam, whatever it was. And he broke out of it and he signaled for the end. Everyone went back into it and he signaled for the thumbs down. And he hit one Batista bomb on Triple H. And that Batista bomb later, Batista was your new World Heavyweight Champion. And man, I gotta say, I mean, the match was all right for what it was. I mean, it was good enough for a main event because of the story that they had been telling for the last couple months at that point. And it actually flew by pretty fast, but that was because of the story that they were telling prior to this match and in the match itself. So, and that was Batista finally getting his revenge and finally getting to beat Triple H's ass, and Triple H finally getting his due after basically creating Evolution for his own means and torturing both Randy Orton and Batista in the basically essentially Randy Orton too. So overall, like, this was very important. This is very important for the WWE in establishing both John Cena and Batista as their new top guys. And I'd say WWE did a masterful job in establishing Batista as one of its top guys with telling this really well done story of Batista, slowly but surely turning to the good side and, splitting away from Triple H. Now, Batista and Triple H would go on to have much better matches than this one of which included a great Hell in a Cell match to close off their rivalry and close off that trilogy later in the summer. So for now, though, the feud was far from over from there at WrestleMania, but this was a good appetizer for what was to come next. So overall, with this WrestleMania, I think it's one of the best, even though it was one that I saw, I'd say a year or two later, after I started watching wrestling. But when it comes to this WrestleMania, this was one of the best. This is one of the best WrestleManias that I've seen in my lifetime, because there's so much good in-ring quality, and there's a lot of very well done storytelling, both prior to this event and then during the event. And speaking of during the event, there was at least a few good stories that are either set to continue or bound to begin after this WrestleMania. So Vince did a really good job of advancing stories after this WrestleMania to make sure that people were going to continue to watch after this WrestleMania, and during the next couple, I'd say at least the next 2 or 3 months at minimum. Also, like I said, at least half. Yeah, I'd say. I don't think I said this before yet, but I'd say at least half this Mania card are easy recommendations to go and watch. That being Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio, the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match, Taker versus Orton, and Angle versus HBK. You can also throw in the 2 world title matches because of just how significantly important those were at the time in establishing those two new champions in Batista and John Cena were at the time. Speaking of which, those were a major deal. Those two that was a major deal for the WWE in ushering this new era, with Vince crowning Batista and John Cena as the brand new top 2 faces for WWE. Because when you think about it, the last year, that being 2004, prior to 2005, the last year in 2004, the WWE didn't have a lot of stability in the main event scene, and I guess even the mid-card scene didn't have a lot of stability, because when we reviewed WrestleMania 20 and the pay-per-view surrounding after WrestleMania 20, there wasn't a lot of quality in those pay-per-views, because there were several guys that were either gone or injured. Like Brock Lesnar and Goldberg were gone. The Rock was fully in Hollywood, and then you had Stone Cold Steve Austin was retired, and he also couldn't come to terms with a new deal with the WWE, so he was pretty much gone by then. Even you can't even come up with a new contract for non wrestling appearances. So Vince didn't really have any guys that he can rely on to be fully at the top. He had Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit as WWE champions and world champions respectively, but they couldn't really move the needle. And they tried with Randy Orton, but he mentioned multiple times that he wasn't ready for that position. He was too immature for that position. So they had to turn back the clock on Triple H as a World Heavyweight Champion, and then of course we had JBL as WWE Champion, and they didn't really do much either. Even though JBL had a pretty underrated character at the time on SmackDown. So, in contrast with this WrestleMania, with Batista and John Cena being established as the 2 new top faces of the company, that was about to change for WWE for the next half decade, especially with John Cena at the top. So overall, with this WrestleMania, I think it's a recommended must-watch, whether it's a first time or a rewatch, because there's so many memorable moments and so many matches that are must-watches if you're watching it for the first time or you need some recommendations, in just how important it was for WWE during that time period to kind of reestablish itself, even though it was still the top company at the time because they didn't have any competition, but still to further not sink itself at the time because they didn't really have anything going for them. So yeah, I'd highly recommend this WrestleMania. It was a really good one with all the stories going into it, and the stories coming out of it, and the stories told during it, the match quality, a lot of good stuff coming out of this particular WrestleMania. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on this WrestleMania 21, 20 years later. And yeah, let's have a conversation about it on the comments on YouTube or on social media via DM at Very Cold Lasagna. And yeah, another WrestleMania retro view in the books, and probably one of my favorite WrestleManias of all time. Yeah, we finally got to talk about it here on Very Cold Lasagna. So yeah, let me know how you felt about this WrestleMania, however you can. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I have been your host, Dylan Lasagna, with another episode number 263 of this icy yet spicy podcast with all your filthy casual takes on the world of sports. I'm not sure what WrestleMania I should do next for this mini retro review, retro road to WrestleMania, but I'll think of something. I'll think of which one to do next. But we've already done WrestleMania 2000 and WrestleMania 21, and yeah, we'll see what the next one will be in the next episode as we approach closer and closer to a very kind of unappealing WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas. But yeah, stay tuned. You'll just have to stay tuned for the next episode to find out which one that will be. But until then, keep the lasagna very cold in the fridge. And until I see you, when I see you in the next episode, peace out.